Good morning, everybody. This is Michael at FOUCH FABS. Today we've got an install that's pretty close to the shop. I think we was about 7 minutes away. It's the material that's going in here. It's a Fantasy Brown. It's a Fantasy Brown that I personally picked out online when I saw the pictures of it. And I talked with the customers when they came in to look for stone, and they actually like this Fantasy Brown. It's I chose it because it's got a lot of white and then the black veining in it. That's just really awesome. It's some of the prettiest Fantasy Brown I've seen in a while. If you like that white and the black veining, which I absolutely love it. So I wanted to do a video on this job because I'm actually pretty excited to see how it turns out with the stone we picked out. Sammy and I spent quite a bit of time together on the saw working to put this veining together with the brother-sister slab. So I'm thinking it's going to turn out very beautiful. You'll see it on this sink run here when I put the seam together. I'll show you it before I put it together and then afterwards, but you'll see how that black veining runs together and runs all the way down this sink run. It's going to be a very, very nice job. So I will record intermittent through the install process and keep you updated, and then I'll show you the finished picture, and I'll get back to you soon. Thanks for watching. So most of you that watch and are familiar with the channel and the company know that my wife Melissa does all the templates, and she's got very good at it. She's been doing it for us for about 1.5 years now, and she very rarely makes a mistake, and if she does, it's something she hasn't seen before, and it's, you know, we can usually modify it and make it work. But this refrigerator here, you can see it's tied up against the cabinets here, and over here we've got this stone on here, but if you pull it back, you can see that cabinet is tied up against the refrigerator. So Melissa has templated the tops so that they'll be tight also, so that we have a very clean, nice, professional look. So on this one over here, we've got cabinet, then we've got wall, so there's no movement to this cabinet at all. And then we've got our refrigerator, which is tight here. This is the template she made. And if you look, if you lay it all the way down here, you can see it fits. We don't really have any play, but you know, we've got a little bit of play here, but not much. So if you raise it up, you see you got free room, but we don't want to take a chance on scratching that refrigerator or anything. So on this side here, where it goes up against the cabinet, on the stone, we can back cut that stone and then just leave a little bit on top, and then we can polish that. And by polishing that and back cutting it, it'll allow us to where the stone won't touch until we get almost all the way down to sitting on the cabinet. And with it being polished, it'll be smooth on the cabinet and we'll not scratch it at all. So it'll take, you know, maybe extra 10 minutes to back cut that and to polish it. But what that 10 minutes will do, it will allow me to have no personal property damage on this job. It'll keep the cabinets from having any scratches on it, and it'll keep my customer happy so that maybe they'll recommend us on down the road and so forth. And you know, the main thing in the end is you want to have a nice professional job that your customers just blown away with. So that's what we're going to do. I'll show you out here on the stone how we do it, and then I'll show you when we get it installed. Let me just push this button right here to start. Alright, so I've made this, I want to make this notch here just a little bit bigger right here so that it goes around that notch on the cabinet. And right here's what I was talking about. If I leave it solid here, then when you go at an angle, you know, this bottom hits the cabinet before anything else does. So by back cutting that, that alleviates that from hitting. Anytime you've got something at an angle and you're bringing it down, that corner sticks out further, and it hits things first, and that's what scratches. A lot of people don't understand that. So, you know, if you're tight and you're bringing something down, you see that part right there, it hits first. You you know. So if you back cut that, then what you have is it'll go around, and the first thing that'll hit's the top, and that's why we're going to polish that. So the first thing we're going to do is make that notch bigger and do our back cut, and I'll show you how we do that. Let me grab my mask and my safety glasses so you guys don't slaughter me for not wearing it. This little mask here I got on, I can do a review on it and tell you about it. This is the second one I bought. I love them. They are so comfortable. They're a little pricey. So that's our back cut. Now I want to get my polishing grinder. And it don't have to be a super shiny polish, it's just got to be smooth. It doesn't even have to shine. The main thing is it's got to be smooth and not have any edges where it'll grab the cabinet and scratch it. Thanks, sir. The blue spray bottle, the water bottle.
Yep. Should be sitting right here.
I see it.
So since we got a flat spot we're polishing, we'll be using a hard backer pad. As always, we use the Viper Elite.
Hit it real border.
In my opinion, they're the best pads on the market.
Go all the way down.
Alright, there we go. Like I said, it didn't have to be super shiny. As you can see, it's not like I would do the front or anything that's going to show. None of this is going to show at all. The top rollover will show a little bit, but it'll actually look better than it did before with just the cut. And then when we caulk that out with the transparent white silicone, it'll be beautiful. So right now, Sammy and I are going to carry this bad boy in. I'm going to let Charles film us while we set it in there so that you guys can see what I was talking about, how we lay it in there without scratching anything. We are going to put a suction cup on this side here. So we're going to have to high-low it. This is going to be the high side. That's going to be the low side. All right, Sammy and I are going to carry it in. Like I said in other videos, the name of the game is no personal property damage. We'll let everybody get in here. Shut the door. Alright, we're going to go flat right now. And I'm going to raise my end up, and Sammy's going to start sliding his end back. We got to go all the way back to the wall so that we clear the notch. On my tape measure,
Staples hanging on it. I didn't see that. Go down, baby.
So we slid down, and I will take the camera from Charles there and get in here closer to show you what we got. As you can see, we have no scratching to the cabinets. We've got a nice tight fit there. Over here on the refrigerator, we've got a nice tight fit. And now when we caulk everything out, it'll be perfect. So we're perfectly tight here. Perfectly tight here, so you couldn't get any better. So we just used the no-lift system and got the long piece for the sink top in. As you can see, this black veining here running across, and then the other piece has got the black veining running this way, so it all matches up. But I told you I was going to show you the seam before we put it together and then after. If you can see here, under here it's kind of back cut and it's rough. And then up here it's kind of polished. And then it's back cut and rough. So about 1/4 inch or so down, it's smooth and polished. And then at the front, of course, it's smooth and polished there. We've got a machine at the shop called the Seam Phantom. And what it does is it undercuts this bottom side here. And it's got 3 pads that you put an air polisher on a mechanism that rides on a straight edge. And it polishes this and gives it a perfect straight edge. And if you look at the top of it right here at the seam edge, and I don't know how, there we go. And if you can see, that's like razor sharp. I mean, I could literally, you know, cut my shirt or a piece of cloth or a piece of rope or something on that edge because it's so sharp. And I could show you like the back of a stone that goes against a wall that the Seam Phantom has not been ran on, and it's night and day difference. So the other side of this seam that goes to it is exactly the same as this, done with the Seam Phantom. So what happens is when you push these seams together, it makes sure that the top always hits before the bottom, because of course the bottom's back cut. So number one, your top touches before your bottom, which gives you your tightest seam possible, because you know, if your bottom touched before your top, you couldn't squeeze it any further in and get a nice tight seam on top. Also, the 3 pads that polish, it takes some of the, see how that's lighter and that's darker where it's been polished? It takes some of that lightness out so that your veining can show through on your seam. And the third thing it does is it takes any little chips out of this edge of the seam. So if you're familiar with the industry and you've seen seams before they came out with the Seam Phantom and then seams after, or for that matter a shop that has not invested in a Seam Phantom yet compared to one that has, it is night and day. I would not accept an install from a shop that did not have the Seam Phantom. That's just me. Another tool we have is the Gorilla Grips, and I'll show you that. I know you've seen that in videos before, but I just want to show you how that Seam Phantom works. Alright, I told you I would show you the seam before we put it together and then after. So this is it. We just set it on here and kind of buttered it up close. You can see the space in there. Of course, right there it is. But what I was telling you about is the veining here. You got the veins there, and then you got down here, you got your veins. And you know, even though they are brother sister, you do have a little bit of variation because it's a little thicker into the stone. But for the most part, it's really close. So after I get this all put together and leveled up and all that, I'll show you the finished product of what it looks like. But you can see it's really cool. I think it's beautiful. I'm excited about this one. So we've got the seam leveled out now. We're using this clear epoxy here. It's called Elite. My pigments I'm using, white, buff, gray, and then a black. The black I'm not going to mix into my epoxy. I'm just going to use it once I get the epoxy in there to shade the line area. So what I want to do, you can see all the different colors in it, but it's mostly a white, gray, black stone. So I'm going to start out with just a touch of gray to give this epoxy just a little bit of a color tone. Now I've known people that just use straight clear. They don't even use the correct epoxy. They use E-stone, and then they just, that's what you get. It's a clear seam. That's not how I roll. So now I'm going to take just a touch of this buff here. Not a whole lot of it, just enough to have it in there. And basically it's, I don't know, what you're doing is you're making this epoxy more solid, you know, less like an apparition, less like a vapor, and more a solid color. So now I want to go with this white here, and the white I kind of use more of it than anything else. I put a little bit on each side, and I'm going to mix that in here. So now that I got my main colors in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how close I got. And I think we're pretty close right there. We're going to roll with that. I want to get me another piece of
Just right there, we're laying out there, Mount.
I always put some back for any holes that are left over in the seam, and you know, any chips or pits or anything like that that we may have missed. And that's there. So now I'm going to set my Gorilla Grip up, and Sammy's just going to keep recording here. This is our Gorilla Grip.
Hey, grab an alcohol ball and bring in your bucket and roll a paper towel.
I know you've seen the Gorilla Grip in other videos. I'm going to set my epoxy over here just kind of out of the way for now. Scoot the Gorilla Grip down.
I got you a cord right here in case that cord drill won't reach in that.
Okay. First thing you want to do with your Gorilla Grip is you want to spin all your cams out. That way they're back in here. That way when you go and you tighten down your air,
Take off like three.
it doesn't cause your seam to unlevel. I need to take some time to clean my Gorilla Grips up at the shop. I haven't had a lot of free time lately. The next thing you want to do after you roll your cams back, you want to roll this main wheel all the way out so that you have as much room as possible to pull this seam tight. So that's the first one. This is the second one. So we're going to do the same thing to it. See, it's got chemi all over it. It's impossible to not get these things dirty when you work. Some people think I'm messy with my seam, but my seam probably turns out better than theirs does. So they can say what they want. Roll it all the way back, and then we're going to open it up if we can. It might be a little too dirty to open up. Yeah, we're going to do something about that. There we go. Just had to break that chemi loose that was holding it together. Alright, now that one's ready to rock and roll there. So now, I'm going to set this one behind it. I want to make sure that they're the same way. Roller on this side, the air nozzle on that side. So we're set up right there. So now I've got the seam level and lined up. All I'm going to do is open it up just a hair. I don't want to throw everything off too much by opening it up too far. So as you can see, I've opened it up about 1/4 of an inch there. That's plenty to where I can get my shim and my epoxy all the way down in there. Because if you remember what I showed you with that seam phantom, it's back cut on the bottom. So the problem I've seen other inexperienced people, maybe not inexperienced, less experienced, more hard-headed, won't listen or learn, is what they'll do is they'll barely pull this seam apart because they don't want to have to spend 5 minutes to re-level it a little bit. But and then they'll take a putty knife, shim, or whatever, and they'll try their best just to flatly squeeze as much of chemi as they can down in there, and they will get it down in there about 1/4 inch after they squeeze it and everything. But this underside that's been back cut, there ain't nothing on there, and you go to the end and grab it and, you know, pop that seam loose. When I put a seam together, if you get a call back and have to break that seam apart, I want you to be very, very depressed. because you know it's going to be a 2 or 3 hour process. So I want to take my hardener. We know it's winter. We know it's cold outside. This is a home customer lives in, so it's nice and warm in here. But the stone has been in my shop and outside in the trailer, so it's cold. So I'm going to add more hardener than I do in the summer and warmer months, so that we're not waiting for 45 minutes for our epoxy to set up. And it's not that I care to wait, but what happens is when you wait for that epoxy to set up, people are walking on the floor, people might bump a shim, you know, we may lose power, and the Gorilla Grips lose power, and then they lose their suction, and you end up with an unlevel seam. And if you end up with an unlevel seam, then I'm the disappointed one that has to break this thing back apart and put it back together. So I try not to have to wait for an hour for my stuff to harden up. So I put those 2 dabs of hardener in here. Now I'm making sure I mix it up real good. Now I've got so much hardener in there, I really got to move with what I do. So we're gonna
Go ahead and plug it in.
put that down in there. As you can see, I'm getting gobs and gobs of it, and I'm pushing it and wiping it down in our
Hey, grab that alcohol bottle, be ready.
So I want to get every bit of this I can down in between it. That way when I squeeze it together, it fills in all that underneath reservoir. And you want this to squeeze out the top and the bottom, the epoxy. In a perfect world, it squeezes out the total length of the seam, and the up and down, top and bottom. Shims are great if you got light stones to put your epoxy in with, because if you use a metal putty knife, it'll scuff your stone. And I'm not saying scuff as in like scratch, it'll stain it. It'll put like a gray or black stain on your stone. So now I'm going to wipe this best I can. I'll try not to get it on there. Oh, they're fine. As you can see, I'm messy. That's why we put rags on our towels on the floor. Alright, alcohol. We always spray the bottom of our Gorilla Grip. And Sam and I have discovered it just does a better job of giving us suction when we do that. Now I'm going to come over here. I'm going to push it together by hand first. And as you can see, it's pressing up there. Got rags right here. I'm going to make sure my front is still pretty good and level. Now, I had a bunch squeeze out the top. I don't want to have to fight with all that. So I got that. Now, the black pigment I was telling you what I was going to do, I'm going to take a little of that, put it right here. Put it right here. I'm going to put it right here. Right here. Right here. That'll just, you know, give it a little extra. Alright. Really grip this bad boy. I'm going to center that seam line in between this. Put your air pressure and you can hear the machine when it grabs. Do the same thing right here. Saw us push it together by hand. Now we're going to do it with the machine. You can see how much more it pulls up. So now we're going to take our razor blade. You can see it's stopping right there. So we got to lower that down a little bit. So that takes care of it there. And we're going to work our way all the way back. Make sure we're level all the way around. whatsoever. So now what I want to do, I got a little bit of epoxy here on this cabinet. I'll get that off before it sets up. And I'm going to look underneath and make sure it's squeezed through under there. Same, I'll try to get that on film.
Oh, it did.
As you can see, it is squeezed through everywhere. So I'm going to wipe it here. I mean, nobody's really going to see that under there, but still yet. You want it to look as clean as possible if your customer happens to look underneath there. And then of course we are going to want to get it off of his cabinet here before it sets up.
Okay, coconut paper towel.
Thanks, sir. Just wipe this with an alcohol rag. Same down here. As long as you pay attention to get stuff like that before it sets up, it's not really a problem. Wipe up what's on these moving blankets. That's what they're here for, is to catch stuff on. But what happens if you don't wipe it up? One of us step in it and we drag it all the way across the floor. Probably be me. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a torch and I'm going to heat this seam up here. You can set that on top of one of the trash cans. Granite does a really good job of holding up heat, absorbing heat. So what you want to do is, rather than hold that torch right on the seam, I've said this before in videos, you want to heat the stone up beside the seam. That way the stone gets warm, and that's what causes your epoxy to get warm, not the heat from the torch. Because if you hold that torch just right on that seam, and you get that epoxy warm that way, the epoxy will get warm, but your stone will stay cold. And it won't grit as good as it should. So what I do is I go side to side of the seam. Feel the temperature change on the stone. And then I go up underneath it and I go side to side of that seam. And I warm that stone up underneath here as well. A lot of people worry about, setting hot pots and pans on it, and I tell them it's okay, and it's in our aftercare sheet, and it's okay. And sometimes I think they're still a little leery of it, but trust me, if I can take this torch to it, you can set a hot pot or pan down on there for a minute or two. As long as that thing's not bright red on, you'll probably be alright. Now, I have been on a job that I saw somebody set something really hot metal on it. Not a piece of granite, a piece of quartz.